unmute button in with you. So you can use that actually. We are having a Q&A section at the end of the session. So you can actually unmute yourself and ask question, but not now. Feel free to switch on your web camera if you want to, but please stay with us muted till Q&A section. In the Q&A section, you can open up and ask any question as this is a beginner session. So obviously you will have many questions in your mind. So let it be any small question. Just feel free to type it in the chat, or just you can unmute yourself and ask. All right, so just let's begin with the event. So uh, today I'm Faizan. Let me begin with my introduction first. I'm Faizan. I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador from India, currently pursuing my computer engineering. I'm excited about mixed reality very much. So I did my final year project in mixed reality domain, and I keep on hosting many such events. So this is the third day of the event I'm hosting here. So and I am joined by my co-host Tejas here. So I'd like Tejas to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, this is Tejas. I am a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador and the country head of the RAR Student Partner Program. I wake up every day to help people become the best version of themselves so that together we can make a better world. And so probably we all are here to learn something about MR, and I love MR also. You may know me as the ARMR guy on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with you if you have any questions or so. And let's start today. So Kee Cheng.
Yeah. And before we start, we are having here our guest speaker, very inspirational person and very talented one here. So, Cheng Heng Kee, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, Cheng Heng here. I've been working in mixed reality essentially for the past 4 years, having brought the Microsoft HoloLens 1 to Singapore to actually benefit the Asia Pacific region. Wanted to actually move into places like India, Thailand, Malaysia this year, but unfortunately due to COVID, it was very hard for us to travel over and also to benefit the community over there. Quite luckily and quite fortunate, we actually managed to get our hands on the HoloLens 2 devices, and I actually run a team called the Hello Holo team itself. And essentially, we are also triple XR10 suppliers as well. And within the region, I would say that we have quite an interesting track record. So if you have any questions in regarding immersive media, happy to actually guide. We actually lecture in universities over here in Singapore as well. Yeah, more than happy to actually share my knowledge with everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Cheng Heng Kee, for giving this introduction. So let's begin with our event webinar today. I will just tell you briefly about the agenda. First, we'll be having introduction, what exactly is extended reality, then all of these three domains, VR, AR, MR, what is the key differences between those, and something more about mixed reality. Then Cheng Heng Kee will tell you what is HoloLens. Then we are actually having here a live demonstration from HoloLens 2. So just stay with us up till the live session. So Cheng Heng Kee will show you some very great demos. Then we'll also be having some use cases of HoloLens in the industry, as HoloLens is one of the very famous device. So many firms and many companies are using it in the industry. Then there will be some sharing by Cheng Heng Kee about his journey, where we will ask him some questions and he will answer to us. So actually, those are the questions we prepared, which comes into mind of beginner, because we were also a beginner someday. So we'll just have a panel discussion there, and then at the end be having Q&A section. So I would encourage everyone in the webinar to, so feel free to just push your questions in the chat box, or any small doubt, we'll surely answer it, or feel free to unmute in the Q&A section. It's up to you. So yeah, let's start with the event. First, I'd like to tell you what exactly is mixed reality. So sorry, what exactly is extended reality? There has been really a blurry line in between all of the realities itself. So let me get to the next slide. Yeah. So XR is pretty much which encompasses, or we can say it is an umbrella of virtual reality VR, augmented reality AR, and mixed reality MR. So what VR exactly is that you're occluded or blocked from your surroundings, current surroundings. You can't see your surroundings at all, and you are immersed or transferred to a new virtual world, which is kind of good, but you get disconnected from your current world. So it's a little bit disturbing. But let's come to augmented reality now. What is AR? So for AR, it is more of a 2D overlay where you are able to place objects or say screen layers in your entire view. AR is improving day by day with lots of applications out there, and it has been proven a great resource for students. And essentially, in mixed reality, we can say what is we call or place 3D virtual objects in our real world and interact with them. One of the very good example here is imagine if you are picking up a ball and dropping the ball on a virtual table, and it's able to roll across the table, fall off the table, drop off the table on the floor, and pretty much bounce on the floor. So just imagine that the virtual ball and is interacting with your physical table. And essentially, due to this, a lot of hardware providers have been trying to get best of all of these worlds and combining each of these elements together. So we see VR devices similar to more and more MR headsets. There are pretty much features used by these devices in environment. You can say environment surrounding tracking, in-hand gestures, eye tracking, and many others, which all combine to make VR, AR, MR, also XR. Um, this is also a more popular tool in the upcoming future and present too. So let me just move on to the next slide. And obviously, every domain has some pros and cons here. So here, as the session is about mixed reality, so I'll share you some pros and cons about mixed reality. So starting with the pros, we have things like face-to-face human connection, and we're still able to see in the real world, which is very, very important when it comes to user experience. We can also collaborate with others. We have active scanning, gestures, interactions. You can interact with the virtual objects. So Chengenki will be showing you some how you'll be interacting with the virtual objects beautifully. But on the contrary, it is still a developing technology because it's still new and slightly on a higher price set and because it's still new to everyone, as any technology which is on lower price was someday at higher price because people were still unaware of that. So and one more con I would say is we are still limited by the field of view, but there's been a major improvement from HoloLens 1 to HoloLens 2, so about field of view. But down the road, as in the upcoming time, this will definitely improve. So there are many mixed reality headset providers out there, and HoloLens is one of them. It's a great product by Microsoft. So which brings to our next question: what is HoloLens, and what all we can do from the various industries, and what all various industries are using it to do it. So I would like to call up Checking Key here and take on from here and tell us what is HoloLens and about the use cases of it, and show some live demo too. Chengenki, over to you.
Thank you very much, Faizan. Amazing presentation as always. Yeah, so maybe I'll just talk about the next portion. So essentially, this is Microsoft HoloLens, and it's what we call the world's first fully untethered holographic computer. It's made out of a see-through lens. It has 4 advanced sensors, namely it's a depth sensor as well as infrared sensor. It also has a very special holographic processing unit on it, and that's how it actually helps you to stabilize and very, I would say, accurately present holographic materials within your real world. All right, next slide. So on the next slide itself, what we have over here is Microsoft HoloLens 2, and this will be what we will be focusing on tonight. All right, Microsoft HoloLens 2 was something released, or I would say announced in the public last February, but it only got released into a market around December last year. We see certain Wave 1 countries like the US, Australia getting the devices first. We are seeing Singapore getting a device next, and a few other countries definitely. So let's move on and see what's so spectacular about the HoloLens 2 device. So let's take a look at this video. All right, essentially this is called a mixed reality toolkit. Let's play the video, Faizan. All right, very nice. So essentially over here, you're able to touch buttons, touch all these holograms, play a piano effectively. And from there, you can see how you can interact with all of these holograms seamlessly. And most importantly, from here, you realize that you are not even wearing a glove. and you can pretty much touch all of these holograms instinctively. All right. And key objective over here, you can see how you can pick up objects, rotate objects, scale objects, and yeah, pretty much interact with them accordingly. And I need you all to take note as well. All of these features and functions is all done untethered, meaning you do not need any VR ready computers. And each of these holograms have an understanding of where you are in this entire space. All right, another notable feature and function of this entire HoloLens headset is its eye tracking. All right, it uses eye tracking to actually log you in via what we call iris authentication. At the exact same time, they also have certain eye gaze features. All right, so number one, most important is when you read a very long paragraph of text, you're essentially able to automatically scroll down once you finish reading it to the end. All right, and from there you can also do certain analytics as well. All right, being able to understand what exactly is the user actually looking at, and from there keep track of this information and address them accordingly as well. All right, so that's in a nutshell what HoloLens 2 can do. And over here, I actually have an info dump for whoever that's interested. All right, this is what this entire HoloLens 2 is all about. Interestingly, it takes about 8 megapixel stills. It has a 1080p 30 fps video camera. And it's also USB Type-C, featuring a fast charging of about 50% of battery in 15 minutes. All right, and the depth sensor is actually under the Azure Kinect sensor. So for those that know, you actually can buy the Azure Kinect sensor separate from the headset. All right, so there is certain things for you to understand. All right, next slide. All right, so moving along, I'll be doing a very quick live demo. I'll be able to share with you what exactly are the different devices and different applications that I have. So I'll be putting on the headset over here accordingly. I will also be turning off my background effect so you can see me. I'll also be sharing my screen. All right, so this essentially what I've done is logged into the device portal. Essentially, all we are doing is connecting to this device portal via IP address. So if you're on the same exact local area network, you will be able to communicate with the device accordingly with be it a laptop or with it your mobile phone. From there, what I'll do is I'll actually go ahead and set up a live preview stream. And from here, the moment I turn on this live preview, you'll be able to see my surroundings clearly. All right, so let me just wait for that to launch.
In the meantime it launches, I would encourage all the attendees to put on the questions in the chat. If you have any question, let it be any basic question, as this is a beginner event, so we expect that you might have any question, so just add it in the chat. We'll cover it up in the Q&A section.
All right, sorry, give me a moment. Let me bring another device over.
Sure. Also feel free to interact in the chat. Just say hi, hello, or just say which part of this whole webinar you are loving the most. Yeah, and about HoloLens, what if you learn something new, you can just put it in the chat. So yeah, let's keep the session interactive and make it more nice. And also in the meantime, feel free to share all of this on your social media, and if you want to tag us, you can tag us and let others and your friends know that what new you have learned today. This is the third day we are having of AR MR days, which is mixed reality with HoloLens. We already had 2 days. First day was augmented reality in mobile. Second day was mixed reality with Magic Leap, and this is the third day you are having here. So if you have missed any of our live sessions, so you can just continue. We'll just share the link and you can watch the recordings.
Okay, thank you very much, Faizan. All right, yeah. So I actually swapped another device over, but essentially now I have an entire live streaming of what I'm seeing. So I'll go ahead and start up certain experiences. All right, so first, I'll be bringing up what we call a 3D tic-tac-toe. This is an application that we have developed internally to really present to people what exactly is the concept of holograms itself. I'm sure all of you out there has actually played tic-tac-toe for the first time, and it's essentially the one that actually forms one line, right? But over here, what we have, instead of just a one-line item, we actually want to form the maximum number of lines by the end of the entire game. All right, so I have this entire scene over here. What I can do is I can actually walk around it, all right, see things from different perspectives. And essentially, I can also spawn various items or various tokens and place it onto the entire scene accordingly. All right, I'll be playing with an AI, and my objective is to try and score a point, as many points, if you might ask. All right, so all right, you can see how it's winning in 3 different directions. And from there, we can see whether we can trick the system into letting us score a point. All right, we actually customize this AI to be pretty difficult, all right, to even get a point. Or I would say win the AI accordingly. All right, so essentially, when this was created, it was really to help people understand how you can actually see different objects from different perspectives and to really help engineering students to be able to visualize models more effectively. All right, I'll just give him 1 point so I can get a point. All right, so yeah, essentially, you can see how it has full hand tracking. And as I put my hand out there, it's able to understand that movement and essentially whatever that you can imagine in Iron Man is able to be done today. All right, my next use case that I want to share with everybody, let me bring it up. All right, I'll be showing all of you a 3D engineering model and how you can pretty much use it for your product design use cases as well. All right, so let me bring up a 3D model. Oh, sorry. All right, so I have this entire model right in front of me. And as I walk around it, I can see the back of it. If I want to, I can even look underneath it as well. And I can see the different gears below. And this will really help me understand the entire context of this particular model. If I want to, I can even explode out the model into its different parts. All right, and then from there, I can even pick up one of these parts and understand it from its different perspective. All right, and you can see how I can very gently interact with it through my fingers and hand gestures. All right, I can even pick up objects with 2 hands. All right, and just compare them and change the size accordingly. All right, I can let go of it and you'll fly back accordingly. If I want to, I can even pick things up and resize them accordingly. All right, yeah, so essentially that's what HoloLens 2 can do and really the power and the strength of HoloLens 2 itself. All right, do leave your questions in there. Be curious about this technology and you can really see all the different possibilities with it. Okay, so that's really for the live demonstration. All right, let's go back to the slides, Faizan.
Sure, let me just share my screen back again.
All right, so that was a bit more in regards to a live demo and 3D tic-tac-toe side of things. All right, so now I really want to share a bit more in regards to HoloLens in the real world and what are the potential use cases and how companies and organizations are using mixed reality in general. All right, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so number 1 is really what we call architecture, design, and construction. There are multiple use cases. So let me give a few, all right? So if we talk about architecture itself, say for example, you have an entire architecture drawing, a floor layout, a plan drawing, etc. You need to know exactly where the pipes are being overlaid, where the wires are being overlaid within the entire scene. So how do you do that? You can do that pretty much through mixed reality itself, overlaying this digital world with the virtual world at the exact same time. All right. We can also do things, for example, if I have a showroom, a show flat, and it's completely empty, I can pretty much bring in virtual objects to pretty much fill up this entire space and help you do a bit more of interior design planning of an entire space layout. And then from there, you can actually pitch and present this to your stakeholders without the need of really just going into redraw everything, doing paper mache models, etc. So these are really the key use cases. And at construction sites, I could even do what we call auditing. All right. So pretty much you can have what we call virtual checklists. Ultimately, whenever at construction sites now, whenever we do walk the ground, we have to do physical checklists with a piece of paper, checking safety, taking pictures of the various surroundings and locations. But now with this entire tool itself, you can remain hands-free, go down and do your engagement accordingly, sync everything up to a cloud, and from there even use voice notes, text to speech, speech to text as a use case as well. So that's really more of architecture, design, and construction. All right, moving along. All right, I also have what we call engineering. And when it comes to engineering, it's very tricky, right? Engineering is such a complex tool and complex subject. Most of the time, you'll be dealing with, I would say, complex machineries. And as and when you join a particular company, you realize that you need to be attached to a senior engineer in order to be able to effectively deliver it as, I would say, deliver your daily job scopes accordingly. And most of the time, this senior engineer will have to teach you. As a junior engineer, how do you actually stop the entire procedure, or I would say save cost accordingly, is through this technology. So through what we call self-directed learning and through what we call holographic guides, you are now able to teach people step by step how to operate a system, how to operate a complex machinery without the need of a senior engineer. You can start teaching people in virtual classroom settings. You can start teaching people on site with what we call digital twins. You can also do what we call holographic guides overlay just by simply placing these step-by-step hints for people to follow without the need of virtual illustrations. So this is really the diversity of engineering training. All right, moving along. We also have medical. All right, I want all of you to think about and put your perspective into a medical practitioner's shoe. All right, ultimately, as a medical practitioner, you'll be dealing with CT scans, X-rays on a daily basis, and most of these are still in black and white. It's very, very hard for you to actually change this entire model and picture this model right in front of you. It can be extremely difficult, especially in high stress scenarios. So how do people actually counteract it? Now with this HoloLens 2 headset, imagine the capability of being able to convert all of these 2D screens into 3D models right in front of you and being able to change them into different colors, different shapes, different sizes, and realign them on top of a particular patient. And if you activate what we call collaborative or shared experiences, you're finally able to discuss about this particular patient, their CT scan with other doctors in the exact same place at the exact same time with the exact same real life object virtually. All right, and that is the power of using it in medical use cases. All right, moving along. We also have what we call consumer and retail product demo experiences. Ultimately, now every time when we do a product pitch to anybody, we are still pitching about all these 3D objects in 2D screens, right? And we have to let our stakeholders be able to rotate them with a mouse, and half the time they don't really know how to do that. You might argue, right, you could potentially use 3D printing to actually reprint all of these items itself, but it can get quite costly, especially for larger events or larger items itself. But now, no matter what kind of convention centers you go, no matter what kind of exhibitions, or even what we call customer experience centers, you're now able to essentially put any kind of 3D object, 3D model into the HoloLens suite itself, and from there present it to your stakeholders and getting them to have that buy-in accordingly. So this is really more of the consumer and retail product demo experiences. All right, moving along, we also have what we call the product shelving. At any point of time, whenever you're in an empty room, you can bring in these objects accordingly. Not just that, imagine now you're a shop manager. And if you yourself as a shop manager, you have to do all these placements accurately. But could you really place the correct objects right in front and guarantee that they're the top sellers? Those that are at the front of the store, those are the ones that attract the attention, getting people to actually come in. right? So this is where this critical analytics is required. You have to get people to test which object that will actually attract their attention. So how do you do that? Using HoloLens 2, you can do all of this positioning and testing virtually without the need of doing it physically. This saves a lot of costs and helps people understand this behavioral data a lot better. All right, moving along. We also have manufacturing. All right. So whenever you talk about manufacturing, we talk about complex machineries as well. And most of the time, whenever you are a large company servicing to a smaller company or servicing your various clients, you'll be selling them this machine, and half the time they'll come back to you and say, "Hey, it's spoiled. Hey, how do you actually fix this part?" And whenever you give them a PDF document, a YouTube video, it'll be very, very hard to understand everything in a 3D perspective, especially when you're taking from one camera angle. So how do you guarantee that they actually have a full understanding of which tools that they actually have to execute or which steps that they have to execute? Through this HoloLens itself, you can actually visualize everything in 3D, very accurately understand the entire spatial context and understanding from all different perspectives how a person's action is executing as well. All right, so that is really more on manufacturing as a technical aid, as a production tool, as a teaching medium. Next, in financial services, ultimately, when we talk about this type of visualization, we want to talk about data, right? Ultimately, everybody is talking about big data being the next in thing. And in financial services, usually we'll deal with very, very large data sets. And essentially, it's not easy for us to visualize everything on a 2D screen. So how are you now able to bring out this information onto this platform and see things in 3D? Example, you're able to bring out an entire Singapore map, and within each postal code itself, you have an entire bar graph. And within the bar graph itself, it'll show you what's the racial segregation within Singapore, how many percentages of Chinese are here, how many percentages of Malays are here. And from there, you can actually do the space planning and really try and promote this social cohesion locally. All right, so this is one of the means and methods of using visualizations. All right, so essentially it aligns with financial services as well, how people see information, see charts, see data graphs, and pretty much see stock tick information. All right, so that's on the financial services. All right, so yeah, essentially that's all the use cases. I think I'll pass the time back over to Faizan, and let's see how we can take it from there. All right, Faizan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Cheng, for sharing all of those insightful information with us, and those are really, really great. And those show a perspective like what exactly is HoloLens and how HoloLens can actually be used and is already being used. So those give us a really nice and an idea to where we can actually develop and do many stuff. So as on moving to the agenda, now we have the panel discussion that we were talking about. So we have some questions like we were a newbie any day. So the question that we get actually in our mind. So we have just tried documenting those. But if we couldn't cover your question in our panel discussion, feel free to type it in the chat or wait up till the Q&A section. You can unmute yourself and ask us the question. So let us just begin with our first question. And Tejas will also be joining here for panel discussion. So let me just get started with our first question. Cheng, can you exactly share what are you doing presently in XR field?
All right, thank you very much, Faizan. So for our team itself, when we started off in 2016, it was really an accidental business idea, right? What we wanted to do was really go into device rentals, really getting people to actually try out this device. But even after we market tested, bring out in the device, there were not that many people that were requesting for it. That's why we decided to diversify into various revenue streams. And one of them that we actually went into is teaching, or I would say education in general. So we're teaching people how to actually develop on this platform. We are doing developer courses, getting them to actually learn what are the correct stacks to actually build it on. Like, for example, Unity, for example, MRTK, and from there, they can actually choose the correct tools. One of the common areas that we realize is that developers, wherever they try and come onto this platform, they actually have to struggle to actually choose the correct tool in order to deploy the correct use case. So that's where we'll come in and we'll advise accordingly. Hey, if you're using a multiplayer, you should be building on this version. If you're building single player, you should be building on this version accordingly. So that's ultimately where we started off. Moving along the lines, we started helping people actually acquire the devices. So we actually did device rentals, device acquisition, device leasing, and from there help different teams be able to acquire these devices much easily, especially of how the entire red flags, especially in terms of compliance in various larger companies. So that's where we help people actually acquire these devices from US and brought it over here into Singapore to actually benefit them accordingly. Down the line, we actually went to consultancy as well. So we went out of just mixed reality alone. We went to venture into VR and AR, getting the devices like the Google Glass, the RealWear, the Epson Varial, Valve Index, Oculus Rift S, Oculus Quest, you name it, we pretty much have it. And then from there, that's how we actually help customers actually understand what are the correct tools to actually use for each of their use case scenarios. Ultimately, each of these tools itself has its own use cases. And if sometimes your requirement is to attend to the mass audience, then maybe augmented reality or mobile phones are the one for you. But if you require to be hands-free, then maybe Microsoft HoloLens or even RealWear is the correct use cases for you, right? So this is one of the areas that we actually started off. And ultimately, down the line itself now, we are venturing into things like volumetric capturing. We are venturing into things like 360 photography. And recently, we're also doing some event solutions for door gifts in relation to immersive media solutions. So yeah, that's what we are doing in general. Very, very broad range of items. But that's how we diversify our portfolio and try and reach out to as many people in the market, being the one-stop shop within the Asia-Pacific region for clients that are interested to venture with immersive media. That's us.
Yeah, that's great, Chang. We wish you all the best for your venture, obviously.
Thank you
And
very much.
so, our next question is, would you like to share your journey and what is the one thing which you are proud of in your journey with Hello Holo? Or you can say you are in Singapore and you want to cover all the Asia region. So, what is the one thing you are really proud of?
All right. Thank you very much for the question. I would say that when I started all of this, it was back in 2016, right? 4 years back. When I started all of this, I didn't start off in immersive media. I started off in this company called Ascension Studios. It's also a company that I founded, but it was doing what we call turnkey solutions. Anything that's not available off the shelf, we'll do it for you. And that's essentially the value that we provide to our clients. And for our company, we are not funded by anybody. We are self-funded. So whatever revenue that was coming in, we actually bring it back into a company and pay our employees accordingly. So I'm very happy that we are profitable, all right, since day one itself. And that's one of my main objectives in this company, to really be profitable and to be sustainable. And one of the key reasons why I actually ventured into mixed reality is to really find that niche where we couldn't do so in the web development side of things. Ultimately, there's a lot of web developers, there's a lot of mobile app developers, but there isn't that many people doing immersive media. So we see that as a golden opportunity and as a place that we could actually jump on board. And back then, I had a 5-year plan to really try and be one of the leaders within the Asia Pacific region. And I'm happy to say that within these 4 years, we have quite a pretty good track record. And with the things that are upcoming, and I would say announcements that are upcoming, we are very lucky, and I would say that we have finally reached that goal. That being said, we are aiming for another 5 more years, right? To now be able to deliver, I would say, solutions at an even more profitable level as well. So that's what we envision to do. And we hope that we can inspire different students, different audiences to be able to come onto this area and try and explore this area together with us.
Yeah, that like those are really great answers. So like Cheng has really a great journey up till now, and it's really motivating and inspirational for many students out there. As students really need motivation. There's many resources out there, but there's no one who tells which actually resources we should prefer. So, and I would say that Cheng is the right person here. So, which makes me to get on to our next question. So, what is the first thing that comes in your mind when you hear mixed reality? Or we can say, what's your definition of mixed reality? As you have been working quite a long time now, so how would you define mixed reality?
Very good question. In mixed reality itself, I would say that mixed reality in general is a name that was created by Microsoft, right? Ultimately, really out there, there's only two types of reality, which is virtual reality and augmented reality. But mixed reality was something that Microsoft has termed, and it has become so prevalent due to how strong a technology they have, and that's why it has become a term that was actually sticking with everybody: VR, AR, and MR, right? And essentially, Microsoft's definition of it is where you put an entire spectrum, right? One end being the real world and one end being the virtual world. And mixed reality is pretty much the entire line on it. It's just how much of the real world it is and how much of the virtual world it is. And that's mixed reality in general. And within mixed reality itself, it is one of the underlying terms in what we call extended reality. And within extended reality, we have the virtual reality and augmented reality side of things as well. And this is where people are exploring these different emerging technologies. All right. So one level above extended reality itself is what we call immersive media. All right. And immersive media is how people actually consume technology, consume media accordingly. And let's not be just a single track mind itself. Let's not just be aware that immersive media is just purely extended reality, but essentially it also encompasses other types of media, like, for example, volumetric capturing, for example, things like projection mapping. So these are all ways that people are actually integrating with this kind of news media and being able to present information very uniquely, right? And this is the new age way of presenting items. And that essentially is what I would say mixed reality, immersive media in a general as terms that address this industry. Yeah.
So moving on to the next question. As all of us are beginners and we everywhere start someday as a beginner, so can you just suggest some tutorials or how to get started with HoloLens specifically, and any specific documentation or blog or tutorials which you used in your journey and you have learned from those?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that one of the key areas, if you really want to get started with immersive media, please join the Slack channel. All right, there's a Slack channel that is there and it's really readily available with a lot of resources and a lot of people talking on there. Another place and platform is Twitter. All right, Twitter is one of the strongest area for mixed reality itself. And if you really want to find out anything on it, you can pretty much look out over that area as well. And another thing that I want to share with everybody that you might not be aware is that essentially immersive media or mixed reality in general, it started off from Unity and it started off from what we call game developers and game designers. Essentially, whatever the game developers and game designers are doing today, they are pretty much doing for immersive media as well. So if you do have an interest in that area, even though there's a lack of documentation, lack of content in that area, but there's a lot of content for game development and game design. And in immersive media itself, you're pretty much doing what we call serious games. So if you're really interested, start off by understanding the entire Unity platform. You could even expose yourself to Unreal platform as well. And from there, you can essentially deploy certain elements in immersive media. So these are some of the tools and areas, I would say tips and tricks that you can align yourself to as well. Yeah.
Okay, that was really knowledgeable, and we learned uh, a great thing. So my next question is, um, any starter project for development with HoloLens would you like to share? And what if I do not have a HoloLens device?
All right. So I would say that with any starting project itself, the main objective is really to be able to bring in a virtual object into your project, and from there being able to display it out to people and really to present it in 3D elements. So that could be anybody starting a project, doing what we call gaze, gestures, voice, and interaction elements. All right. And in the event that you don't have a HoloLens, rest assured, even our team itself, whenever we do development, we don't even use the HoloLens headset until it's at the deployment stage. So the entire conceptualization to the development side of things, we have always been using the Unity editor. That's more than enough. You don't even need the HoloLens emulator, to be honest. All right, so yeah, that is where I would say and encourage all these students who are interested to actually build in this area. Feel free to go ahead and just use whatever you have on Unity editor. And potentially, once you're done with that, build a package of it. You could actually reach out to me, send it over to me, and I can I can deploy it onto our headset and record an entire recording for you. That's actually what Faizan did. He actually did his own HoloLens application. Very impressive. All right. And then from there, we actually deploy it onto a HoloLens, and from there, actually share it with other people as well. So this is where you can actually leverage on connections and contacts So feel free to actually reach out to people with devices. I'm sure that they are more than happy to actually help you actually do with all this deployment itself. So don't let all this hardware be a showstopper for you. All right. So please go ahead and start developing, start executing rather than just thinking about it.
One question here, which you mentioned to that people to reach out to you if they can. So, where exactly people can reach out to you, like which through which platform?
So the best platform to reach me is through Telegram. All right, you can reach me at my ID. I'll leave it at the meeting chat over here. Yeah, you can just reach it out to me on Telegram itself. Worst case, if I'm too busy and I didn't manage to see your Telegram message, you can reach out to me on my email as well. So I do respond to my email on a daily basis. Worst case, you can meet me on LinkedIn accordingly. All right, so these are the three areas that you can reach out to me.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing those parts through which people can reach out to you. So let's move on to our next question. I have a question here that one thing which you would like to develop using mixed reality with HoloLens to make life fun, or are there any of your dream projects that you want to do?
I'll be honest. I actually have a project that I really want to do, and it's related to gaming. I mean, ultimately itself, games is not something that is very profitable, especially in mixed reality. There's not many people that already have these devices, and there's not many people that will actually pay for it. And because of that, games are not really that heavily developed, and that's one of the entertainment side of things. But ultimately, I believe there is a very strong way of pushing a message across. I'm not sure have you all actually explored this kind of thing called an escape room. All right, essentially you get locked in that room and you solve different puzzles and then try and unlock different stages of clues itself. And I think that mixed reality itself really is an activator for it. Ultimately, it has what we call spatial understanding and what we call scene recognition. From there, you're able to understand the entire room and pretty much create the environment that you can actually play this entire escape room without the need of placing in physical objects. You can go in there into a virtual environment, play anytime, anywhere with your friends, and pretty much solve clues accordingly in any type of layout. And every single room that you go into becomes a new gaming experience. Ultimately, you are no longer creating stages based on the static environment. You are creating stages in terms of dynamic code. And when you write these codes, you'll be, for example, I want to spawn 3 monsters on a small wall. I want to spawn 6 monsters on a large wall, etc. So these are the ways that you can actually dynamically create things. And I think that's very, very powerful, especially when you deal with spatial elements as well as interactive elements. And this is where I hope to be able to do something in this line and hope that I can actually bring this experience out to people as and when we have the time to actually complete it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. First time when I heard about Fragment, and it really blew my mind how amazing that is. Like the character there are sitting on the sofa and leaning on the wall while crossing their arms and all that, and the clues are hidden beside the tables and all. And it was really possible even today, not just future thing, but it's possible today. And that was something that really excited me about HoloLens and Microsoft mixed reality. So now our next question for the career advice. What one career advice would you like to give to a college student or graduate working in MR field?
So I think one of the key things over here in MRFU itself, you need to be very, very familiar with Unity. All right. Ultimately, as a developer within MRFU, if you are not familiar with Unity itself, it's not going to be something that is beneficial to you. So make sure you get very familiar with that area. Another thing I would say is get practicing and get your hands on with MRTK. All right. MRTK is becoming the new global standard for immersive media. So that's another thing for you to master, and it's very available, and you can pretty much deploy it for iOS and Android as well. So no excuses to get started on that, and that's one of the more effective ways of doing things. That being said, I think another way of looking at MRView itself is don't just look at it as a developer point of view. You can always look at it between a business consultant or even an artist. All right. Ultimately, in MR itself, is a whole new platform. You need business people to actually pitch ideas across, to seal projects, and also to help do project management. Whereas the developers, they are the one that piece the entire stories together. But even before that, they can piece all these stories together. They need an artist to actually do what we call content creation, creating all these 3D models, creating these textures, rigging the models, animating the models accordingly. So it's a very, very taxing job. If you have close friends that are doing business, they are doing artist work as well, gather them together, form your team of three, and I think this will be a very, very strong way that you can actually start off all these experiences. And most importantly, you can check out certain things like Type in Space. All right, Type in Space is a very interesting application that was just released recently for people to trial. There's a very good application to actually do demonstration on. And if you and maybe two other people can actually build something like that, you'll be very, very impactful. Post it onto Twitter, you'll immediately get a lot of views. And then from there, people can start discovering you as well. So I think that's one channel that is very effective. And you should think about it and look at things in that area.
Yep. Thanks for that. Thanks for that advice for students. That like there's actually a need for students. Some suggestions for students as the students when they start with this domain. So they are actually unaware of everything and they just get confused and get on the wrong path. So thanks for like at least telling a path from where they can start. So for the next question I have, you showed some great applications there about the tic-tac-toe application you showed. So I saw that there are some 3D models also there in that. So and I see that there is a requirement for generating 3D models in mixed reality. So can you share like what are other things that we can do other than as a mixed reality developer? So what are other things that anyone can do?
I mean, ultimately, in this new age itself, I would say that there are a lot of emerging technologies and a lot of new jobs that are created by people. And with all this technology out there, is getting more and more accessible for people to touch on each of these high tech areas. So I would suggest one of the key ones being AI and ML, all right, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And essentially within the new age itself and new normal, people are no longer hiring just local graduates or local employees. They're going to start sourcing beyond the borders. There's no more such thing as coming to office, etc. It's all about dialing in, and there's no global restriction in terms of where you are located. Maybe time zone might be an issue, but essentially, if you're flexible to work in any time zone, you can actually do things anywhere at any time. So I think that is something that has really reduced the competitive edge of things. And if you have a area or I would say a technology that you're interested in, please go ahead and start executing on it. And then from there, you can actually attract employers to actually engage you accordingly. So most importantly, please go and practice and sharpen your skills in terms of technology itself, and start posting whatever that you have done out there in the market. Start seeing what other people are having problems with, and whatever that they have problem with, I believe you can actually execute, try and solve it in your own means and methods, and they'll be very appreciative of that. And that's also how you get eyeballs as well on whatever that you have done. Yeah.
All right, thanks for that suggestion again. I would say, ask my last question, then we can start with the Q&A. That what are other careers in XR that people can opt for other than as an XR application developer?
Yeah.
Being specific to XR, so what other careers
Okay.
they can choose?
Okay. I think I briefly mentioned just now in terms of business development as well as artist side of things. But I think I would like to go one step further, all right, especially in terms of development wise itself. One of the most sought after job is what we call shader programming, all right. And this is something that not a lot of people have. And even back then, there wasn't even such a use case. Why? All right. Key thing now in immersive media or in XR in general is always about how an element look extremely attractive. And to make something look attractive, you'll pretty much have to do animations, have to manipulate with the shader accordingly. All right. And yeah, pretty much that's what we call shader programming. All right. So I'll just type that in the chat. All right. So shader programming is one of the more important ones, definitely. Last time you don't really see this requirement out there. So this is something for you to focus on. And this is also one of the things that our team are actively sourcing for. Somebody that can effectively have an artistic outlook on things and having the ability to actually develop on it as well. So that is on the shader side of things. How you make things look attractive and how you attract attention within the entire scene. Another one, UI and UX. All right, this is something that has been always discussed about. UI and UX is something that is definitely required, especially in XR. Why? Because ultimately it's no longer the same as browsing a website. It's no longer the same as navigating a mobile phone. It's a new standard altogether. You have to be able to play around with the field of view. You have to play around with the gaze, the gestures, the voice, and you need to know what's the best input for the best output. So user interface and user experience is a whole new ball game and whole new ballpark for extended reality in general. Yeah, so I think these are the key ones that definitely has a very, very high traction beyond the developers, of course.
I guess I'm unmuted. Yeah, got muted. Yeah. So thanks for those questions, and I guess we are done with our panel discussion. Just one last question I would like to ask is, uh, everyone cannot directly afford to buy the device. So what should I do as a beginner if I don't have a device? What should I do? Where should I see how my application will be
Yeah,
executed?
so like what I mentioned just now, you can always approach anybody within a Slack channel itself and get people to help you deploy onto your device itself. There's a lot of people with such technology that don't mind doing it. So you can always just reach out to them, get them to help you deploy, and get them to do your testing. All right. Of course, don't expect to be spoon fed. So my suggestion is to prepare your test cases very, very clearly. So guide them. All right. Launch the application, and this is what you should be seeing. Do this action, and this is what you should be seeing. Get them to test specific things, and when you're doing all this testing, try not to do it too often. All right, if not, people can actually get quite tired, and you're going to be ineffective. All right, so ultimately they're doing you a favor. So make sure you compile all of this information and make full use of every opportunity that you have when a person is actually helping you to deploy and view your projects accordingly. So this is one of the area that I would say and suggest you all go about doing it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's great. We'll, that was really useful and really informative. So, and we had some question from Rajat, I think. Rajat, did the session answered your question about the pursuing career and the technology prerequisite? Uh, you can unmute yourself or you can type in the chat box. Uh,
Yeah, do let us know if I didn't answer your question directly. You can always just re-ask the question, and I'll see how I can actually answer it more accurately as well. All right. So yeah, please clarify your questions accordingly.
Rajat,
Okay, I guess we can't reach Rajit right now. There's another
yeah,
question
he
Lorenzo
said
asked here.
yes. So,
Okay, great, Rajat. We're glad. Thanks, Cheng Heng Kee, for answering the question. There's a part Lorenzo says that what was the word? Can you
that
mention us?
was shader programming.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was
Cheng Heng Kee
shader
mentioned it.
programming.
Uh,
Yeah, share that.
Let me know
he
if it's
answered
the
that.
wrong
Yeah.
word, Lorenzo.
Okay. And there's a username here and Amine. Okay, Amina. Sorry, pardon me if I'm producing your name, pronouncing your name wrong. So it's asked, please, how can I get the presentation? How can I get the presentation of day two? Okay, so Tejas, you did reply to that.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Lorenzo has another question. He asked that what all we can use for designing 3D models. So Chayanki
Okay,
would be
very good
better.
question.
Yeah.
Usually our team use Maya. Maya is a paid tool. So of course I would suggest you to use something else. Something that's more free and commercially available. You can use this thing called Blender. All right. So Blender is a free tool that you can pretty much use to design 3D models. All right. So you can go ahead with that. But that being said, anybody that essentially is doing immersive media itself, and you don't think that you want to do the 3D designing side of things, don't worry too much. There's always other sources, or I would say other resources out there in the market that you can actually leverage on as well. For example, there are some asset stores that actually allow you to download CC versions of I think is I can't really recall the website, but there are definitely some websites that allow you to download free models that you can actually use as well. So those are definitely useful in terms of the development side of things.
Yeah. There are many websites out there from where we can get free 3D models for our use. I have shared some
Great.
getting
Speed.
started
Yeah.
links in the chat section. So some of them are aka.ms/mrdocs, where Microsoft has its own documentation for mixed reality, Unity, and HoloLens too. So you can also check aka.ms/learn_mrtk, where it's actually a learn module that is recently released by Microsoft, from where you can actually try out building a application in mixed reality without any device. So you can actually do, as Cheng Heng also mentioned, you can actually do much part of your project in Unity editor itself, and you can actually view how your project would look in the Unity editor. And there's also, if you want to know more about HoloLens, you can obviously go to aka.ms/HoloLens. And I would like to share one more link here. It's for Mixed Reality Toolkit. So as you saw the video, which Cheng and Kia also explained, so it's like a starter project to get starting with that project. So I'm just sharing the link in the channel chat box. So it's ak.ms/mrtk. So you can visit that link too and learn more about Mixed Reality Toolkit project. It's an open source project, so you can also contribute to that if you want to. So feel free to give a pull request to that link. And is there any other question here?
I don't think so. And Lorenzo, I want to suggest you something, that don't jump on two different things like 3D modeling and development. They are really big space, and it really takes a lot of time to become an expert in 3D modeling, or even in lightning. There are experts especially for lightning, 3D modeling and rendering, texturing. So I would recommend that you may explore those sections, but don't jump directly on it. So if you want to go into development phase, just download some easy abstract models and go with it.
Yeah, thanks. And Sketchfab is one of the websites where you can actually get 3D models for free and also paid, but there are free 3D models too there. Um, and I guess like there are no more questions in the chat.
I think there's one more from Lorenzo in
Yeah.
regards to how you get testers, beta
Yes.
testers. What are the resources for that? There's definitely a few. You can always go on the Facebook channels to look for people with the devices. Ultimately, the difficulty in this area is to source for people with the devices. All right. So if it's free testing, you'll probably have to try and look for places in the Slack developer community on Twitter and potentially even on Facebook. All right. Of course, if you want to increase the chances of people testing your ad, you can take some in-app screenshots, and if people are interested in it, they'll be more than happy to actually go in and test it for you. Ultimately, if you want to use another paid platform, you can use this thing called, I think, Utest, I believe. All right. Yeah, utest.com. So utest.com has a space that you can actually pay to actually look for HoloLens testers. So yeah, that's one of the potential places that you can get, and they do things very well as well. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing the link, Cheng and Key. And I don't think there are any more questions in the chat. So what we can do here is we can conclude the session for now. And those who want the recording of the session, they can type their email ID in the chat. We'll get back to you for regarding the recording. Um, and and I guess we can conclude the session here too.
Yeah, and we would love to have your feedback. So I am uh,
Sure,
posting a
sure.
feedback link. So please fill the form, and it will not take much of your time, but it will be really helpful for us to know and do more session like this, and maybe much better. So yeah, please.
Yeah, so feedback are really important. It will help us to improve more and do much more better sessions. So you can also know the which part of the presentation you like the most. So yeah, and I guess we can conclude our session here. And by concluding today's session, we are not only concluding today's session, we are concluding our 3-day series session, AR days. So feel free to put in your email ID if you want the link for that, if you want recordings of the sessions we have, and if you missed our recording sessions, don't get sad. We keep regularly hosting these sessions here. And here I would also, just before I proceed, I would like to have some last words from Cheng and Kee so that we can actually conclude the session.
All right. Thank you very much, Faizan. So I think just a few things that I would like everybody to take note of is that immersive media at the start could be quite a steep learning curve, but once you get onto it, you realize that as many steep learning curves as there are, there's only that many use cases in this area. So it's quite easy to get a mastery on it. So I would really appreciate, or I would say, I would really encourage each of you to just jump on board. Really be like Faizan and Tanya, just see how you can explore these areas and be experts in this area. Ultimately, this is a growing field, and it's really the right time, right place for all of you to really start adopting this. Be the early adopters, and next time down the road itself, there'll be a lot of people that'll be looking up to you and asking you for consultations itself. So rather than be don't be scared that you are to a game late. It's better late than never. So do jump aboard this area and try out this area and see how it could potentially excite you and encourage you to do better things as well.
Yep. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Feel free to connect to each every one of us. For my socials, you can just go to faizanakhtar.com. There are my socials there and my work there. You can connect to Tejas on LinkedIn too. Cheng and Kee has also shared his links where you can connect to him. Just feel free to just go and say hi to him, to tell him what you are working on, what you would like to work on. So just connecting to many new people will actually explore your mindset and help you to get some suggestions. So as like when I was having problems with the HoloLens device, I just connected to Chayunki and I got that he can actually send the screen recording and deploy the application on HoloLens. So great, thank you for that, Chayunki. And actually my connections connecting to him actually explored the option of getting the screen recording. So this is how you will get more opportunities if you connect to different people. So just feel free to share your link in us. We'll connect to you. If you want to connect to us, you can connect to us. Feel free to give a shout out on social media, how which part of the session did you like the most. And with before we conclude the session here, I would also like to thank my co-organizers Tejas and Dikshita here. So we've successfully completed the 3-day series ARMR days, where right from augmented reality to MR, mixed reality with Magic Leap, and now mixed reality with HoloLens. So just before, I guess Omi has a question here. So yeah, Omi, you can ask your question. Do you want to unmute yourself? You can also unmute yourself and ask. If you want to type it in the chat, you can. Okay, so Omi has sent it in the chat to how to start a career as an AR developer. Do you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I think one of the key things Faizan has shared just now above is the starter links. So you might want to go in there and take a look at that. All right, those starter links are very useful. Alternatively, like what I mentioned, you can also start on certain Unity topics. There's a lot on YouTube. There's a lot on various learning channels. You can even go to Unity's own learning platform as well. It's all free and it's all resources for you to actually start getting your hands onto it. So that's very, very useful. There's also some MRTK examples that you can also try out as well if you want to get straight into it. On-job training is always the best training, right? So yeah, that is some of the different tools as well. Once you get that, you can go ahead and post your works across social media. And definitely, once you have that, people will start noticing you, and that's where you can look for certain jobs in areas. So always keep your portfolio handy. All right. I think Faizan did a very, very good job in terms of his portfolio and all. So you all can consult him and see how he actually accumulate all of these items and show it to people. So I think that is one of the key things for you to gain visualization and getting people to notice you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. All of those your suggestions and all of your answers today, and thank you for taking out time and joining us here and making the session more insightful and monotonous. And I hope that great thanks to all of you attendees, and I hope that you all learned something new today. And just we can't wait to see what you get started with, and we can just keep on going on, but always time has a limit for every one of us. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Tejas or Dikshita, do you have any last words? We are concluding our 3 day series here. So, do you have any last words?
Yeah, that was some great 3 day series, and I think you can learn a lot from Bob and Zakaria and Chang, and you can connect them all. And I would love to share those recordings to you. And I would like to thank Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, VRARMR community, Hello Holo, and Exhibit for these awesome days. And thank you everyone for coming. Some of you are joining for all the 3 days, and that is really amazing, showing your enthusiasm for ARM and MR. And thank you very much. Have a great day, life, night, and bye bye.
Thank you,
Okay,
and
thank
bye
you everyone.
bye.
Bye.
See
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks, Hank.
And please fill the feedback form. We would love to hear from you. And do connect with us if you have any problem, and we would love to help you all. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.